So, we're going to talk about how to grow your consulting business from zero clients to overbooked. This is a re recording of a live that I actually hosted about 3 hours ago, but I didn't want you all to have to struggle through the really bad audio and the really bad video. So, I decided to come back to my office and re record the entire thing. I just wanted to make sure you guys were able to get some of the information, actually all the information I shared with much better quality audio and video. So first, I'd like to welcome you to Ready, Set, Go Consult Live. My name is Patrice Davis, and whether you're watching this live or you're watching this later, my goal is to provide those 10 tips. I'm going to start by listing those 10 tips, and then I'm going to dig a little bit deeper. That's typically the way that I approach some of the training that we provide for our clients. And just in general, just want to make sure people have an idea of what to expect. And then we take a deep dive into each one. So, just in case you don't know anything about who I am, again, my name is Patrice Davis, and I'm the founder and CEO of Grants Works Consulting Company. We are a government grant compliance management firm, and we basically help nonprofits, educational institutions, startups, and local government agencies apply and manage their, 6, 7, 8 figure grants, and everything that actually entails. I'm also the CEO of Ready, Set, Go Consult, and we actually teach early stage consultants and freelancers how to level up their business by improving their operational structure, or making sure that they're clear on how to attract clients, how to really streamline the delivery of their service, and really just how to have a really strong business infrastructure so that you're growing everything on a really strong foundation, but also really making sure you're focused quite a bit on how you can be a better consultant so you can attract, of course, better clients, higher paying clients, and of course, more lucrative engagements. So, wanted to start off with a story, and I think it's just important to help you understand where I started to where I am now. So, I launched Grants Works in January of 2020. I resigned from my position at a very well known organization that many of you are aware of in December, and decided to go to another organization. And 2 weeks with that second organization, I knew that wasn't for me. And I decided, you know what, I've got a lot of experience. Why don't I try my hand at this consulting thing? And decided to launch the consulting business. And of course, we know what happened very soon after that. Between January and March, things were starting to look a little rocky. And then by March, everything closed down. So what did I do as the new owner of a new consulting business? I knew that we now had people who were online more than ever, and so I decided to take this opportunity to teach folks about, not necessarily teach folks, but really I describe it as you know just kind of going to different Facebook groups and finding out which one was the best fit, or where would my future clients, hang out. So I stalked. That's the term I was looking for. I typically, I kind of stalked a few Facebook groups, and then was finally able to land my first client in May of 2020. I won't ever forget it, because uh, I won't forget it for a number of reasons. Number one, I charged a really, 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 really small amount for that service. And That's one of the reasons. The second reason was the main point of the story. But I do want to kind of hang my hat there on that small amount that I charged. And that's something for you as new consultants to consider. When you're leaving your position, and maybe you earned 50, 60, dollars an hour, it's maybe a salary, but when you broke it down, it was maybe about 50, $60 an hour, or maybe it was 35, 40, whatever it is it would calculate to when you took your salary and broke it down into the hourly rate. A lot of times when we first leave, we think we should be charging just a little bit above that as consultants, and that is wrong. And so you're thinking, maybe I earned, $50 an hour. I'm going to start charging my clients $60 an hour. And so you would charge $600 for a 10-hour service, something that would take about 10 hours. And so that's one of the first tips. Don't price your services. Don't actually link it to what you earned before. link it to some other variables. I can, actually teach a whole session on pricing in Ready, Set, Go Consult. So the membership itself. So I just wanted to make sure that we kind of hung our hats there, but we're going to go back to the story. So not only was the pricing really, really bad, but the delivery, I'm going to admit, yeah, I didn't deliver that service really well. Yes, the service was provided. She received what she paid for, but it was kind of rocky. I didn't know anything about how to onboard a client, how to really bring the client briefly into my world to help them understand that I'm here to provide the clarity, the confidence, and just just the sense of well-being that they should feel when they know that they are working with a consultant that A, knows what they're doing, two, does it well, three, delivers the service well, and then of course four, helps them understand what the other side looks like. We let them understand that at the, before it happens, and then once it does happen, so it just it stays in their mind that they started here, confusion, right? But then we're done working with us. We actually got them to the next side. So it was bad delivery. I hurried up and pulled together an invoice, provided the service, but it just again was just a rocky experience. And it helped me, now that I look back on it, helped me realize where I started and thankfully where I am now. So just wanted to give you an idea. I wanted to start with that story because it helps us understand that, you know, getting the client is one thing, making sure you deliver the service really well is really important. And that's actually one of the things that's on this list of 10 tips that on how to grow your consulting business from zero clients to overbooked. So let's start with number one. So number one, of course, is your experience and your expertise. I actually call it in the Ready, Set, Go Consult membership program, your SEEK, your skills, experience, expertise, and your knowledge. So that's number one. You really, of course, if you're going to be providing consulting or freelancing in a particular area, you definitely have to have skills, experience, expertise, and knowledge. That goes without saying. And then number two on that list, remember I said I was going to provide a list and then we're going to dig into each one. Number two is your niche. What about, your service is, specific to a certain, really, it's a specific to a certain market or a certain service. For example, we are a grant management consulting firm. A lot of people, when I first started this work, kept thinking that I was a grant writer, or because that's the only thing that what they're primarily aware of. If you're thinking grants, it must be a grant writer. But actually, there are several other positions related to the grant world that are not grant writers. Grant writers actually are one one side of that. You have grant managers. As a grant manager, you manage the grant. You make sure that your client has the financial and other systems in place so that they comply with the requirements of the grant. Now, what is our niche? Our niche is that we only focus on federal, local, and state government grants. So our niche is we are a grant management firm, but then we focus primarily on federal, state, and local government management of those types of grants. Of course, you can manage grants from other entities, but the grants that typically require managing, quite frankly, are going to be government grants. And so that's our niche in the overall grant space. And then the third thing, of course, is your market. If you have to be very, very clear about the market that you're serving. So when I first started the business, as I said, I was stalking Facebook groups. I would stalk Facebook groups of of people that I thought would be in our market. But it turns out our market is much bigger than that. So the more I was in business, the better I was able to refine that market. And so you will more than likely do the same thing as a new consultant. You'll learn to refine your market and be very, very clear about who you're serving. And sometimes, as I said, it may change, it may expand, or it may become a little bit more, it may, become more narrow. And then, of course, you need to know what their pain points are and how much they are actually in pain, right? How much they're hurting. I've heard some people say, you're using that term pain points is a little overused. It's almost cliche, but it really does help to understand what makes them uneasy, what keeps them up at night, what is missing in their organization that they know needs to be addressed, where are the knowledge gaps. All of those things are the variables that you need to be aware of so that you can make sure that you're crafting a service, and more importantly a message, right? Well, not more importantly, but just as important, a message that addresses the gap, the pain point, the unease, whatever it is that that they're feeling. The other thing is your ability to deliver. So it goes without saying that you definitely need to be able to deliver that service and deliver it in a way that's not rocky. There aren't these stops and starts. There's a smooth onboarding process, a smooth service delivery, and of course, you're dependable, and it's all the things that a person would expect when they're paying a consultant 5 and 6 figures, right? So being able to land that contract is important, but certainly being able to provide the service at the level that they expect is also very, very important. And then your reputation. So this is something that I take very, very seriously. As a matter of fact, when our new team members join the organization, whether it's an employee or a contractor, one of the first things that I explain to them is that protecting the reputation of the firm is very, very important to me, as the owner of the business, the person who started the business. But it should be important to them as well. Maybe not to the same extent, because everything that they do is a reflection of them, but it's also by extension a reflection of our company. And so we need to make sure that we build a reputation and then, of course, protect that reputation. So I've built a reputation, and of course, that reputation, you're always building it, you're always protecting it. But just want to make sure we talk a little bit about reputation, because reputation leads to what? Referrals. So just want to make sure we're thinking about that. And then you want to think about your positioning. And we're going to really take a dive into positioning versus branding, so that when people think of your consulting firm, what are they thinking of? And what about your firm stands out? And positioning is really that, making sure that your firm stands out. And I have a number of really good examples here when I get into each, when I get to dig into each example. And then, of course, your thought leadership. I know that's an overused term. You're probably tired of hearing it, but it really is true that your thought leadership helps to what? Position your firm in a different light. It helps with your positioning. It helps in a number of ways, and I think that so far we've been really successful at doing that, and I want to continue to do that. And I'll provide some really good examples, or some, what I think are pretty good examples of how we've been able to position the company and the real estate. I always call it as what kind of real estate are you taking up in their minds? Not necessarily the size of the real estate, but when they think about you, what are they thinking about? So we'll take a deep dive into that. And of course, your services. You'll notice services is last, not because it's not important. They are very important. It's just that that's the final touch point. First, you've got to have the skills and experience and the knowledge to actually go out and say that, hey, I'm going to launch this consulting or freelance business. You've got to have something to bring to the table. Then you've got to know what your niche is now that you've actually decided to launch. Then, of course, you need to know who's the market that wants your service, and not just your initial market. Again, that market could expand. If you want to know what that market's pain points are, then you need to, of course, think about how you're going to deliver those services, what you're going to do to build and protect your reputation, how you're going to position the firm. Then, of course, once you position, what are you going to do to make sure how are you going to use thought leadership to enhance your positioning? And then, of course, those services, right? Those services are extremely important. But again, the final touch point, you do all those things first. So let's talk about your seek and you. So your seek is, again, your skills, experience, expertise, and your knowledge. So what does that mean? That means you've got to have the cred, right? You can't say you're going to launch a consulting business and you don't have that cred. You need to have the credibility and, of course, the credentials. Now, As I shared in the recording that I tried to record earlier, I'm not saying you have to have two PhDs and a master's and a PhD and two MBAs. I'm kidding. All of these different, initials after your name, but having that formal education does help. It just doesn't have to be, again, a PhD. Of course, having a doctorate is excellent. It's a great way to get that door open. A lot of times people see Dr. So and so and they give them the benefit of the doubt. And they've worked really hard to get that benefit of the doubt. So I certainly don't, that's great. But maybe you don't have a PhD, but maybe you have a bachelor's degree and 30 years of experience at maybe 4 to 5 different organizations. And as a result, you now have different perspectives on how to manage a certain process within an organization. That's the credibility and the credentials, right? And then, of course, the skills. I talk quite a bit about not just the skills to deliver the specific consulting related service, but those supporting skills. I call them like the supporting actors in this whole thing. Sometimes those skills are you're great at project management. Maybe you've got great communication skills, which means you can actually enhance your consulting services by speaking training. Maybe you're great at creating really creative presentations and visuals so that whatever that final delivered product is, you can make it look really fantastic. So there are these other skills as well. Certainly those skills that are related to your consulting, the core services you offer, but some of those supporting services. And of course, your experience. Again, maybe 5 years or less, maybe even 7 years or less to be a consultant. That's possible. I mean, different industries are different nowadays. AI, having 5 to 7 years of using AI to do certain things, that's certainly a lot of years. So I don't necessarily want to put a time frame on what experience is going to be considered um, you know you know substantive, or a number of years that experience would, you would say, okay, well, this person has X number of years of experience, so therefore they are definitely qualified. um, but just wanted to make sure that we understand that experience is a given. And what about you makes you different, right? So we want to make sure that your seek is about you. That's why it's called your seek and you. So you've got the skills, experience, expertise, and knowledge, but then there's you. You add something to this as well. So let's think about it. There may be two people. They both have 20 years of experience as financial analysts. They both have, let's say an MBA, and they both have, the similar education, similar work experience. However, one has worked at a firm for 30 years, and that's all she did. That's all he or she did, was working at one institution for 30 years. The other person has similar skills and knowledge, but they worked at 5 different entities. One was a university, one was a bank, or one was a financial institution, one was maybe an airline company, and maybe another one was a nonprofit. Do you see what I'm saying? This person has 4 different environments that they worked in versus that financial analyst that worked in somewhere for 30 years. If you are, this person over here has more varied experience, right? They've worked in different types of organizations. And to me, that's what differentiates them. And that's something they can actually include in their marketing. I have 30 years of experience as a financial analyst in the aviation, nonprofit, private, whatever, I think educational institutions, and I forgot what other example I provided. And that in of itself makes him or her stand out. So that's what I meant by your seek and you. And then we're going to talk a little bit about your niche. That's the second thing. We're going to dive into your niche. So, um, as I mentioned before, using my company as an example, there's this whole world of grant seeking, grant writing, grant management, grant compliance, grant accounting, right? That's all grant related. I have a niche and I have experience in federal grant management. So I launched a company that specializes in federal grant management. There aren't many that specialize in this space. They exist, but not that many. You have a lot of grant writers, but not a lot of grant managers. And so that is the niche that I've decided to settle our company. And for, I have to be honest, for quite some time, and I still struggle with this, I want to offer grant writing for people who believe that that's what the grant world is. But really, where I'm most comfortable is on the grant management side. But a lot more people are probably looking for people to write grants and bring money in. And I always say that they're less aware of and concerned about keeping the money once they receive it. But they're certainly much more attuned to bringing the money in. So just wanted to make sure that I want to use that as an example as the niche. But really, when you think about your niche, you have to think about what problem you solve, right? Not and is what problem you solve, who is looking for the problem to be solved? Is that an in-demand an in-demand let's say, and something that's really in demand? And also, what about you makes it, a better fit for you as a person to be able to provide that service? So, all right, I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give you three examples. So maybe you're a DEI consultant, and DEI, for those of you who aren't aware, means diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant. And I believe there's another one now, DEIA, which I believe is diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, I believe. Forgive me if I said that wrong for those of you who are in the DEI space. But you're a DEI, and rather than being a DEI consultant that serves everyone, maybe you are a DEI consultant for universities. And I always use that as an example because maybe you start out being a DEI consultant in the College of Engineering. You do a fantastic job over there before you know it, right? And you're in the College of Engineering's budget. How all of a sudden the College of Architecture learns that you've done a fantastic job. Now you're in another, right, department within the university. Oh, but then again, it turns out, the College of Health Sciences wants to hire you. But that's just one institution. Just wanted to give you an idea, give you an example. So I just want to give you an example of that. Another is, maybe you are an HR consultant, but maybe you're an HR consultant that focuses on global employees. Like you can really help a startup determine, how best to hire, onboard, and manage global employees. And when you think about it, startups can have employees in any part of the world. Maybe you're a startup and you have employees in Thailand, in Ghana, in Kenya, in Indonesia, in Canada, and maybe the UK. That's, 5 or 6 different countries, 5 or 6 different types of labor laws. So if you're an HR consultant and you have a lot of experience in that space, you can use that to differentiate yourself from all the other HR consultants. And then the final example that I give is maybe you're a web designer. Well, there are a lot of web designers, but maybe you're a web designer that specializes in helping electricians and plumbers and handy